नमस्कार आदाब सत श्री अकाल हेलो मैं ਹਾਂ ਤਰਨਜੀਤ ਕੌਰ ਘੁੰਮਣ ਹਾਜ਼ਰ ਹਾਂ ਜੀ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਖਾਸ ਮੁਲਾਕਾਤ ਜਿਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅੱਜ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਚੀਜ਼ਾਂ ਨੇ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨਸ ਜੋ ਕਿ ਫੇਸ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਵਕਤ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਬਲਮਸ ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਡਿਸਕਸ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਸਟੂਡੀਓ ਵਿੱਚ ਮੌਜੂਦ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਵਕਤ Conservative Party leader, Yasi Kasadyanke, leader of opposition. Let's welcome him, Mr. Pierre Polliver. Welcome to Humda TV.
Thank you very much, Tehran. Great to be with you.
How are you?
I'm very pleased to be here, and it's a beautiful sunny day outside, so I'm glad to be here and have the chance to chat with you.
Let's talk about some issues that we are here and representing our community.
Yes.
So let's start with, first of all, people are looking at you. They are just considering you as the next Prime Minister of Canada.
Thank you.
How much burden is it for you, or how much pressure you are taking for that?
Well, Tehran, it's a big burden because people are really suffering right now. As you know, we have 40-year highs in inflation. Food prices are rising faster than at any time since I was born. We have 1.5 million Canadians going to food banks every month. In fact, we recently heard stories of some in Mississauga going to food bank asking for help with medical assistance in dying. They wanted to end their lives because they can't afford their lives anymore in Canada. The cost of housing has doubled. This is Canada after 8 years of Justin Trudeau. And what's worse is that when you go into the streets, there's crime everywhere, people being stabbed on the transit. Drug addictions are at an all-time high. The country is more divided than ever. So I have a great sense of burden to turn the hurt that Trudeau has caused into the hope that Canadians need. And my purpose, therefore, is to bring home lower prices, bring home powerful paychecks, bring homes people can afford, bring home safety, and bring home freedom, because that's what people came here for.
So when we talk about Canada, Mr. Trudeau always talk about his progressive mission. In the last 8 years, how do you think that he has achieved that mission? He talks about progressive mission and you are talking about bring it home. So what is the difference between both of the things?
Well, he has no common sense. You know, he's doubled our national debt. That has driven up inflation because more dollars buying fewer goods means higher prices. His spending is driving up in interest rates on families. And what is the result? 9 in 10 young people say they can't afford a home and never will be able to. 7 in 10 Canadians say that home ownership is just for the rich.
Of course.
It was never like that in Canada. You know, 8 years ago, it was cheap. You could buy a house with a down payment for $25,000, and the average mortgage payment was $1,400. That's affordable. That's reasonable. That was only 8 years ago. But under Trudeau, mortgage payments have doubled, rent has doubled, and the needed down payment for a home has doubled. In addition to that, he's raising energy costs by tripling the carbon tax. He wants a 40-cent a liter carbon tax on your gas. It'll drive up heat and food as well. Enough. My approach is different. I want to bring home lower prices by capping spending to eliminate the inflationary deficits and get rid of the carbon tax to bring down gas and heat prices. I want to bring home powerful paychecks by lowering income tax so that hard work pays off again in this country. Because right now work doesn't pay. You earn $1, and by the time you get clawed back and you pay taxes, you can lose 80 cents on the dollar. I want to cut taxes and reform the system to make work pay. This should be a country that works for the people who work. I also want to bring homes people can afford by getting the gatekeepers out of the way to free up land and speed up permits to build more homes. We need 3 million homes in this country, but red tape gets in the way. I'm going to require municipalities either speed up those permits or lose infrastructure money. Those are some of the ideas that I have. It's really common sense of the common people for our common home, and let's bring it home.
When you talk about the homes, there is hardly like first-time home buyer who can jump into the market because of their whatever their wages they are getting, they are not getting eligible for that.
Yes.
And what will you do for that? Though the current federal government is saying that they will build that much homes in the next decade, as if we look at the immigration, we are inviting 1 million people in the next 3 years. So do you think so there are enough homes for them?
No, there's not enough homes for the people here already. The problem is that we have the fewest homes per capita of any country in the G7, which is crazy because we have the most land to build on. So why don't we have more homes? Because there's too much government bureaucracy. It takes about $350,000 to pay for the taxes and red tape on every single house in GTA. In Vancouver, it's $650,000. That's not for labor, land, or materials. It's just for government paperwork and taxes. I'm going to cut that back. I'm going to require cities speed up and lower the cost of building permits. If they want to get federal infrastructure money, I'll require every federally funded transit station have high-density apartments all around and even on top so that our young people can live right next to the bus or train. I'm going to sell off 6,000 federal buildings, turn those into housing, and I'm going to speed up immigration of building trades. So carpenters, electricians, plumbers can get in faster and help us bring homes that workers can afford. What do you think?
If we are talking about these things,
Yes.
how it's going to be possible, because we don't have so much workers in the same field.
Yes.
Though we are inviting the new immigrants, but in the same field, we are not getting enough labor.
That's right, and I'm a strong believer in immigration. My wife is a refugee, after all. I think we need to target our immigration to the workers that we need in this country. So I will allow employers to quickly sponsor, and unions actually, to quickly sponsor building trades workers that can come here and help us build homes. That's what we need, more builders, the people who can build stuff, fix stuff, and move stuff. They're the ones in high demand. I'm going to bring them in more quickly, get them working, building those homes. We're going to build millions and millions of new homes, and every single young person out there watching now, you will have the opportunity to put a roof over your head, start your life, and have children so that your parents can have beautiful grandchildren.
Canadians are one of the highest taxpayers, but
Yes.
on the name of benefits, what are they getting? The health crisis, they are suffering from health crisis.
Yes.
They have to wait for 2, 3, more than 4 months
Yes.
to get a family physician. So what would you like to say, and what will you do to just come out from this health crisis?
Well, you put it right. It's like if you go to a restaurant, they charge you $500, and the service is terrible, and the ambiance is awful, and the food was bad, you got food poisoning. That's what our government is like today. It costs more and delivers less. And the easiest way to get more doctors and nurses is to license the immigrants. We have 19,000 immigrant doctors and 33,000 immigrant nurses who are banned from working in our medical system because the licensing body won't grant them a permit to work. So here's the solution I have. I want to create a blue seal standard. It is a test that every immigrant who comes to Canada can go through for each profession. If they pass it, they get licensed. If they don't, they don't. Just like we have in the trades. We have the red seal for the trades. We need the blue seal for the professions, so that my goal is that within 60 days of an immigrant applying to work in their profession in Canada, they should get a yes or no based on their tested ability, not based on where they come from. I'll back up 30,000 small study loans so that immigrant professionals can take time off work to study up to the Canadian standard. And I'm going to make it possible, Taryn, for future immigrants to begin working on getting their professional license here before they even arrive, so that when they get here, they can get right to work.
As I mentioned earlier, that Canadians are one of the highest taxpayers, and
Yes.
when we talk about their money to be used in the right works, what would you like to say about the Roxham border? Most of our taxpayers' money is going to that side
Yeah.
also.
So Trudeau opened up Roxham Road. We didn't have that before Trudeau. He opened that up and said, come on in, even though it's illegal, come in this way. And then it's cost a lot of money and much danger, because crossing there is dangerous. Some people have died crossing there.
Yeah.
I said, close Roxham Road and then use the savings to speed up processing for lawful immigration. Bring in more family reunification, more economic immigrants, and faster processing for refugees. Also, when someone gets here, give them a work permit. Let them go get a job immediately. Many don't even have work permits, so they have to go on welfare. They actually don't want to be on welfare. They want to be working.
Of course.
I want people to work, and that's why Polyev government will grant fast work permits, attract immigrants that can get jobs, and I will lower income tax so that people bring home more of each dollar they earn.
So when you talk about the more each dollar they earn,
Yes.
so there is one more question regarding this.
Please.
Like whenever we talk about the people, whatever they are getting, do you think so? Whatever they are getting to their home, that is enough for them? The lowest wages we are facing right now,
Yeah.
the inflation is on the top in
Yes.
the last 40 years. What would you like to say, and how you will deal with the inflation?
Yes, well, right now, after 8 years of Trudeau, people are paying more and bringing home less. Uh, and that's because his government is out of control. He's doubled our debt. He's increased spending by 66% in 8 years. He added another $60 billion of new spending measures to more fuel on the inflationary fire. So here's my common sense plan. I'll cap spending with a law. It's called the dollar for dollar law. Every time a minister brings in a new dollar of spending, they'll have to find a dollar of savings to offset it so that there's no additional cost. This will force them to make the same trade-offs that small businesses or single moms make in order to meet their budget. Secondly, I'm going to cut back on high-priced consultants and bureaucracy. Third, I'm going to cut back on this plan he has to buy back hunting rifles. He wants to go buy back 1 million hunting rifles from law-abiding rural people. I don't think that's going to save anybody's life. We're not dying because hunters are shooting us. We're dying because of guns being smuggled across the border. So I'm going to cut back the wasteful initiatives that Justin Trudeau is spending on so that we can get rid of the deficit and lower the tax burden. That'll allow people to bring home powerful paychecks that reward hard work and leave more in your pocket.
Daily we are delivering the news like there is shooting somewhere.
Yes.
Some people have just lost their lives because of that. So what will be your policy on crime and criminals, especially on the bail reforms?
Yes, so Justin Trudeau brought in a bail law which allows repeat violent offenders to be released from prison the same day they're arrested. And these are not one-time offenders. Sometimes they commit 40, 50, 60 offenses, and every time they're arrested, they're released the same day. And then they go out and commit another crime. And then we arrest them, and then they commit another crime, again and again. It's a revolving door. I want to end the catch and release system and bring in jail, not bail, for repeat violent offenders, require serious offenders serve their entire sentences. I'm going to take the money, instead of putting the money into banning hunting rifles for rural people, I'm going to put that money into bolstering our border to keep illegal guns out, because the gangsters are bringing their guns from the States. Bolster the border, block the illegal guns and drugs, and take the real violent criminals and put them in jail. It's just common sense. And that's how we're going to bring home safety.
And what would you like to say about the gun control?
Well, I believe we have strong gun control in Canada, but banning hunting rifles will make no difference. It's not the hunter in northern Quebec or in Newfoundland who's coming to Brampton to shoot up the neighborhood. It is smuggled guns from the United States. So I want, instead of going after lawful, licensed, trained, and tested firearms owners, I would go after the real gangsters and gun smugglers and block them from bringing in guns and put them in jail when they use them illegally.
How do you think, like, NDP is supporting liberals, and in BC they have legalized the drugs?
Yes.
Do you think so, like, just legalizing the drugs can reduce the amount of overdose and deaths?
It hasn't worked. They've been doing it for 8 years. Trudeau and the NDP have allowed for decriminalization of heroin, crack, cocaine. They're also using tax dollars to buy the drugs for the addicts. The theory is that it will be safer drugs. That's not what happens. The addicts take the drugs provided by the government, they sell them to kids, and they take the profits and buy more powerful drugs like fentanyl. And that has caused for overdoses to rise by 300% in British Columbia. 30,000 people have died of overdoses since Trudeau took office. So here's my plan. We're going to stop funding, giving taxpayer money for drugs. We're going to ban dealers from selling heroin, crack, cocaine, and other hard drugs. We're going to invest in rehabilitation and treatment. Bring the addict into a treatment facility for 90 days. Detox, counseling, life plan, and then let's bring them home drug-free. And finally, I'm going to sue the big pharmaceutical companies who brought these drugs here in the first place. They lied about the addictiveness and deadliness of these drugs, and that's how we got so many people hooked. I'm going to sue them, take the money from that lawsuit, and pay for more treatment. That's how we're going to bring home for our brothers and sisters and friends and neighbors drug-free.
Let's come to the next question.
Yes.
And that is regarding the foreign policy. What would be the foreign policy if your government come into the in next elections? If you will be the Prime Minister of Canada, what will be your foreign policy? Because if we have a look today, many of the countries Canada is not having good relations these days. Though it's China, it's India. Though India is also claiming that Canada is giving its land to anti-Indian elements.
Okay.
So what would you say about that?
Well, first of all, we need to be a sovereign country, bring home control of our own government rather than ceding control to foreign and international bodies. So we should not be controlled by Beijing, not be controlled by the World Economic Forum in Davos, and not be controlled by anyone else outside of Canada. We should stand up exclusively for Canada's national interest. And that's what we'll have, and that's what I mean when I say bring it home. Bring home control of our own decisions. I'm going to send less money abroad for foreign bureaucracies, for handouts to foreign dictators and foreign terrorist groups. I'm going to bring that money back home and reinvest it in our military. If we want to have strength in the world, we need a strong national defense. That's what will get us the respect we need from our allies around the world. That is how I look at it. I want a strong, professional, diplomatic stance that puts our own country first and no one else.
After the news coming like foreign interference in the Canadian election, federal election, Canadians are a little bit worried about the Canadian democracy.
Yes.
What is your point of view?
I think it's a good thing to worry about, and we know that Trudeau's foundation got $120,000 of donations from Beijing, from a communist government in Beijing. We know that the Trudeau Liberal campaign got money from Beijing-backed interests. We know that the government in Beijing sought to help Justin Trudeau win re-election in 2021. And he has allowed this interference to go on because he has benefited from it. And that's why he's covering it up by refusing to call a public inquiry. So I would call a public inquiry, bring in a foreign influence registry so that anyone who's paid by a foreign government to manipulate our politics will have to register online so everybody knows who they are. And I'll ban my ministers from any involvement with the World Economic Forum. I don't want any international group like that influencing our politics.
We have also come to know that you have written to Elon Musk regarding the just mentioning some news portals as government-funded news channels.
Yes.
So what's the issue?
Well, look, CBC is a government-funded news source, and Twitter should recognize that because CBC basically is a propaganda arm for Justin Trudeau. They spread his message for him. And they make everyone else pay for it. It's over $1 billion we're spending on CBC. And they're competing with you, taking away advertising money from legitimate entrepreneurial media like yours and biasing the politics of our country. So I just want Twitter to recognize that this is government-funded news rather than an independent media like yours.
You have also talked about the Bill C-11, about the Canadian content that is also highlighting these days.
Well, what is Canadian content? Is this Canadian content? I mean, you know, I met a guy who was here from India, actually. He's traveling all across Canada to do a documentary on YouTube about what it's like to be an Indian traveling from one end of Canada to another. Is that Canadian content? He's from India. He's an Indian citizen, but he's in Canada. So is that Canadian? We don't know. And Justin Trudeau can't even tell us what Canadian content is. What I'm worried about, Taryn, is that this bureaucracy called the CRTC, which will control it, will favor the traditional corporate media and give them a stronger voice online, more advertising dollars, and they'll do that by pushing down multicultural and independent media like yours. I think we should have a free market for ideas. If people want to watch media, they click on it, and then it rises up in the algorithm. So we should decide by the click, not the clique. I believe in freedom of expression. I'll repeal C-11.
My last question is, if you'll become the Prime Minister of Canada, what will the first thing that you will do?
The very first thing, I'll get rid of the carbon tax to lower gas, heat, and grocery bills. It's already 14 cents a liter, and Trudeau and the NDP want to raise it to 40 cents. 40 cents a liter, that's a lot of tax. It's going to cost $1,500 for every household. That people can't afford any more taxes. I'll get rid of that tax, and then I'll get busy working at cutting other taxes so that people bring home powerful paychecks. We need to make this a country that works for the people who work. It's common sense. Let's bring it home.
And what about your thoughts about climate change?
Right. Well, I think the best way to tackle climate change is by bringing down the cost of low carbon alternatives like nuclear-powered electricity, hydroelectricity, and carbon capture and storage so that large industry can capture the carbon, put it back in the ground. I also believe that we should team up with our American allies to have common standards and common targets. And we should try to repatriate production of green industries to Canada. We have the 5th biggest supply of lithium for car batteries, but we don't mine it. It takes 25 years to get a mine permit. I'll speed that up so we can mine the lithium, the graphite, the cobalt that goes into electric car batteries. We can produce it cleaner and greener than any other place on earth. And by bringing home that production, we can bring down emissions around the world.
So any message to the Canadians who are watching you right now?
Yes, thank you, Taran. And thank you all for tuning in. My purpose in politics is to put you back in charge of your life. I come from a modest background. I was born to a teenage mom, and she had to put me up for adoption to 2 school teachers that taught me that it didn't matter where I came from or who I knew. It mattered where I was going and what I can do. That's the country my wife came to as a refugee. It's the country we want for our kids and yours. A country where it doesn't matter if your name is Martin or Mohammed, Smith or Singh, Polyev or Patel. As long as you're prepared to work hard and follow the law and do good by your family and neighbors, then you can fulfill any dream you want. That's my purpose, to serve the common sense of the common people, united for our common home. Your home, my home, our home. Let's bring it home.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Taran. Great to be with you.
Thank you so much.